When one of my favorite TV shows released a video game for the Game Boy Color, I just had to find out how good it was for myself, and so you guys don't have to play it. We're gonna do a full review, spoilers and all. So I am the Game Collector, and this is Second Opinion Games, and today I'm gonna fully play through and review Buffy the Vampire Slayer for the Game Boy Color.
Second Opinion Games.
The game seems to take place in Season 4. Buffy swings by Xander's house for a little chit-chat to find out what they're going to be doing later. Of course, Anya is just there for exposition, and she promptly tells Buffy to get the heck out of the house because she wants to get her freak on, and Xander just doesn't have a freaking clue. Eventually, Buffy decides that she's just going to go kill vampires, and they're all going to meet up at the Bronze later, so she leaves. And then the game starts with Buffy wearing her nice pink tank top, runs around and kills vampires. So of course the only way to kill vampires is to dust them with a stake. So you have to knock them down to the ground by beating them up, or more likely tripping them by sweeping the leg. Yes, Buffy attended the Cobra Kai School of Martial Arts, so she's always sweeping at those legs before she rams a stake through the vampire's hearts. This action's done by kneeling over your enemy that's fallen and pressing the punch button. You have to be in a very specific place, usually around the heart, but it can be as low as their freaking crotch depending on the vampire. And in level 1 here, you're in the cemetery where all the vampires seem to look exactly the same. Boy, I wonder how lazy they really got when making this game. Of course, there is a small color change to some of the vampires, so good for them for showing off a little bit of variety here. And you can do a few more moves, like kick the crap out of things. And also, if you press down for about a second and press up, you can do a super jump. There's also some power-ups here, like a can of soda, which if you double tap forward in the punch button, you can blast that soda right in the enemy's face, and it will explode and do tons of damage to them, knocking them down, and then you can stake them. Or if you don't stake them, they will get back up with full stamina. That's right, it has a stamina and a health bar here. Of course, the vampires have all the health, and you just have to kill them with the stake. But Buffy, she has a stamina bar and a health bar, and we'll get to that a little bit later. So Buffy enters the Bronze with all of her friends, and she tells them about the vampires that are just all over the cemetery, which of course they're always all over the cemetery, but there seems to be a bit more than normal. Of course, Xander is very concerned about this, so he offers up his free time and decides to do some research, in which case then Buffy just shoots him down and basically puts him in his place as the snack go-getter and how worthless he really is. At this point in time, Will and Buffy have a little side conversation about going to a giant multiculturalism party at the end of the week. And colleges are always trying to push this multiculturalism thing. I mean, what if your culture was to destroy other people's cultures? This would not work out very well. Someone should ask Israel if they should have a multicultural week and see how well that turns out. So Buffy leaves the Bronze and is confronted with a ton of freaking biker vampires now. Yes, again, they're all the same freaking vampire, it's just with a slight palette swap between the different vampires to show their strength or something. I don't know. I haven't really noticed any difference between any of these freaking vampires to this point. Basically, I just sweep the leg and stab them with a stake through their heart. Also, I take a couple of hits this time around, which means now I need to refill my stamina. And there's some money on the ground because we all know nothing refills women's stamina more than money. In all honesty, this could be any type of weird pickup around the Hellmouth, but I'm pretty sure it's money. Right about now is when I noticed that the quickest way to seem to get through the level is just by rolling, by pressing down in the punch button, and you can quickly move across the screen, which means Buffy just rolls everywhere because that's much faster than running. And you eventually do come to the end boss of this stage, which is just a vampire dressed up like a ninja. He says he's gonna kick her butt, and I smash a soda can in his face, casually walk over to him, and stab him through the heart. Easiest boss battle ever. The next morning, Buffy's woken up by her ex-boyfriend's secretary that's there to tell her that her life's in danger. And I tried this one time by having my secretary call my ex-girlfriend and say, yeah, your life's in danger, and she tried to freaking have me arrested. Basically, it was kind of, she was in the right. She was just in the right, okay? But anyway, in this game, Buffy takes that very seriously. They also give her a little bit of information about some type of book that's out there, and also tell her who the bad guy is, one Ethan Rayne. This is a lame side character, and it seems to be the worst thing he's ever done was get Giles and Buffy's mom to hook up one time, so he's really not that bad of a guy, and he's always looking for a little bit of fun. So Buffy decides to tromp through the sewers and kill vampires now for no apparent reason. At least she changed her tank top this time around. And yeah, she's just stabbing things. This is a platform stage. And finally, that little arrow at the top of the screen has a purpose, vaguely telling you where the next vampire is going to jump out at. However, the platforming here really isn't that good. This isn't really a platform type of game. So Buffy comes out of the sewers and she's in the zoo. She figures she better call home and find out what's going on from the Scooby gang and see what they're up to. Well, they happen to find out that all these different vampire covens are now coming together in Sunnydale for some type of reason. This at least explains why all the vampires look alike in every single level up to this point. See, it wasn't just lazy programming after all here, guys. And because you're in the zoo, of course, you'll see a little flashback thing like the hyena house from season 1. After you work your way all the way through the end of the level, well, then you'll find Bigfoot, and he's a freaking vampire. He says a couple words to you, and then you quickly freaking dust him. The next morning, Buffy goes over to Giles' house for some jelly donuts and to talk about all the vampires. Eventually, they decide that she should go to the old mansion and try and see if Ethan Rayne's hiding out there, because chances are he's in a hotel, but the old mansion probably has tons of vampires. And guess what? I'm right. There's vampires everywhere dressed up in their best formal gowns. Yeah, this is a type of culture in vampires where some of them just dress up all snooty all the time and try and hit you with canes. At least this time is the very first level where I actually take some damage, so good for them for finally getting a hit in on me. Of course, I can always pick up a heart and get all my energy back, which I tend to quickly do, and move forward, constantly chirping and stabbing vampires to death. This is also one of those levels that are platforming, and yeah, it's really bad, and it seems to be the worst in this level of the entire game. There's no boss at the end of this level, and as bad as the bosses have been up to this point, I really don't even care. Now, the next day at the college, Giles tells her about some type of doctor they talked to that might have some information about all the vampires coming into town. And then Buffy then goes off to the lab, where it seems to have tons of vampires and some of the worst music I ever heard, with lots of bleeps and bloops that I just want to get away from and make it to the end of the level as fast as humanly possible. And when I do finish this level, there is a boss battle with some type of chick that wants to suck my blood, and sometimes I'm okay with that, but in this case, I am not. So I immediately sweep the leg and kill her really fast. Yeah, some boss battle. Then Buffy runs into Angel, who tells her that all these vampires are in town because of the multiculturalism exhibit, and they want to drink the blood out of everyone that attends. And let's just face it here, guys, this is what I was talking about. These people only want to destroy everyone else's culture, yet it's kind of racist if we don't let them, because that's what their culture is. What a conundrum we found ourselves in. Luckily, Buffy doesn't have any of that crap as she runs through what appears to be ancient Egypt now, continuously staking people. And this ends with a gauntlet of ninjas where you just continuously stake people. And then you find yourself in a very large hole where the doctor's standing before you, and it turns out that he's Ethan Rayne all this time. Bum, bum, bum! And then you have to work your way through more ninjas continuously dusting people. Now, here is where things get really tough. Thank God it finally got tough at the very last level of the stinking game, and luckily by now you've mastered the sweeping the leg technique and stabbing the vampires really fast, because they get up really quickly, and I make it all the way to the last boss of the game without dying a single time. It seems to be some type of fire demon that just gets up like immediately, so I really have to sweep the leg hard this time around, and eventually I do dust him, and Ethan Rayne runs away, so there's no actual boss battle other than that fire creature, and they all just talk about how difficult it was. And Buffy throughout this probably changed her tank top about 7 or so times. and fought maybe 10 different types of vampires with palette swaps. And yeah, there is an end boss here, but overall, it's kind of cheesy how it's just rinse, cycle, repeat of trip them and stake them. And that's pretty much it. The platforming stages are just horrendous, as this game was not meant for platforming. And honestly, the fighting, it's not really meant for fighting either. So what the heck was this game meant for? Well, it was maybe meant to tell a story. Unfortunately, the story wasn't that interesting, but the dialogue does sound about right with the TV show. Graphically, this is about the best they could have done. At least the cutscenes are graphics really nice, and Buffy changed her shirt a heck of a lot of times, like we saw. So this is about as good as we could see on the Game Boy Color. Now, most people consider this to be one of the worst games they've ever played, but I've played a lot more terrible games than that, and because I'm such a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, well, I kind of like this game, and because it's super cheap, I recommend that everyone picks it up. Either that or they just watch this video again, because it's everything. That's the whole game. When it's all over, I actually was pretty happy that I sat down and finally gave this one a chance and played through it. But of course, that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this review. I had a great time making it because it's more Buffy in your life, and who doesn't want to hear some of the different side stories that probably ended up on the cutting room floor? And if you have a game that everyone hates but you kind of like, make sure you leave me a message telling me all about it, and maybe I too can find some enjoyment in it. So until later, I will see you again, guys.